I'm Cindy reporting for Kids First from San Diego Comic-Con 2023. I'm going to be speaking with Kenny Curtis and Jillian Hughes about their Greeking Out podcast. This podcast is about the history of Greek mythology. It's a part of National Geographic Kids and has become the #1 kids and family podcast on several streaming charts. It has more than 10 million downloads and counting. They are coming out with a book called Greeking Out, the epic retelling of classic Greek myths. Thank you for joining me today, Kenny and Jillian. So how has Comic-Con been so far?
It's been great. We've had a blast. Lots of cool costumes.
Amazing costumes. Just a black t-shirt doesn't cut it. I should have worn something more special.
I know, right? I should have worn like some superhero or whatever, but it's unfortunate it's the last day. So starting out, for those who have not yet listened to your podcast, can you tell us what Greeking Out is all about?
Sure. So Greeking Out is, it's basically each episode we tell the story of a famous Greek myth, and we try to tell it in a way that's fun and family friendly for a kid audience.
Yep, we work with a whole bunch of people from National Geographic to make sure that the content in every episode is right for kids and right for parents. And then we just basically act goofy. We have, I tell a story, and then we have the Oracle of Wi-Fi, who is sort of a sidekick who kind of chimes in with fast facts. If you've ever read the Nat Geo books, they have some cool facts in the margins. The Oracle of Wi-Fi is sort of like that in our podcast.
That sounds awesome and sounds like everyone can enjoy the podcast. So that's really great. All passions start with a spark of inspiration. So can you tell us about your background and how you kind of got interested in Greek mythology?
For me, when I was a kid, there was a book about Greek mythology by a lady named Edith Hamilton, and I picked it up probably when I was way too young, and I didn't understand a lot of the words, but I loved the stories. And so that always sort of stuck with me. I mean, I was kind of a Dungeons and Dragons nerd and stuff a little bit in middle school and high school, but I think the idea that these stories have been around for thousands of years and people are still riffing on them, if not retelling them exactly, it's kind of inspirational because I think everything that we do is sort of storytelling.
I've always been a bookworm and I like history and stuff, so I absolutely relate to that. As a father-daughter duo, how do you like working together?
I hate it. I need a new boss now. No, we get along really great. Obviously, working together is so fun. Like back to your previous question, Kenny is kind of the reason that I became a writer and like this kind of thing. He told the world's best bedtime stories, as you can imagine if you've listened to the podcast. The same sort of fervor and acting performance was given to me every single night. So, yeah, it's been great. It's been really, really fun.
Yeah, and I got notes from her after the storytelling. She'd be like, you were a little intense on that one. Draw it back. So, no, it is an amazing experience, and someday I hope you'll know when you have a kid, and then you get the chance to see them exceed your own expectations and your own ability. It's an incredible moment of pride, but also it's somebody that knows you really well. And a lot of times we don't have to worry about I don't want to offend them or something, because she's just like, shut up, Dad. And I'll be like, okay, shutting up. And that'll happen.
How do you approach keeping your audience engaged, especially the younger audience?
A lot of jokes, a lot of humor. The Oracle is a great way to kind of break up the monologue that we do to tell the story. Just some knowledge or some humorous tidbits thrown in there. What else? I mean, that's really true. Just the acting, the way you deliver the performance is really important.
Well, the Oracle's really important, and Jillian writes the scripts with me and with Emily Everhart, who's our producer, and you can kind of get to a point where you're like, this is getting boring. Like, even if it's a really good story, there's a lot of information, and it's just one voice talking. You need that to break it up, and the Oracle is incredibly popular for that reason. I think, you get a story, and then you need to kind of mix it up a little bit to keep the listener engaged.
Yes, it's absolutely true. I'm a Greek mythology fan myself. This year I read the Odyssey again. Right. I really like Greek mythology. I also like that for younger kids, if they're not really interested in history and stuff, you keep all of those aspects, including the Oracle. So that's really awesome. Your new book is called Greeking Out, Epic Retellings of Classic Greek Myths. How did your podcast affect your desire to write a book on the same exact subject?
Well, it's a very long, kind of convoluted story. So the podcast got started as a way to promote another book called Zeus the Mighty. And in that book, Zeus the Mighty, the characters are listening to a podcast on Greek mythology called Greeking Out. So to kind of promote that book, we made the actual Greeking Out podcast. And then the podcast took on a life of its own and became really popular. And then it became a book based on the podcast, based on the book. So it's kind of like a full circle moment there. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been kind of a challenge or interesting creative exercise to take the podcast episodes and turn them into a book, because not all things translate from an audio version to print.
Do you have any specific deity that you can relate to personally?
Well, Circe is my favorite. I always say I love a sorceress that can turn men into pigs. So yeah,
It's not
she's
very
definitely
far to go, though. Really, honestly, let's be honest.
she's my favorite character for sure. But yeah,
I am a sucker for Chiron, the centaur that teaches all of the heroes. I love his sort of backstory. I love that he's always sort of involved in so many myths. And I'm doing a lot of research about Pan as well, who shows up in so many stories. But he's not necessarily like the main character, but he's in a lot. So I really enjoyed both of those characters.
I know both of those characters, and I think those are really cool. I'd say my favorite is either Artemis or Athena, just because I know I have to go basic, but they're strong female characters, and also Calypso, because I think she's kind of misunderstood. For listeners who are already fans of the podcast, what can they expect from the book that they might not have encountered in the episodes?
yeah. There's a lot of our popular episodes are in the book as chapters, but there's also some brand new stories in there. So lots of fresh new content. And the illustrations, that's the other thing. The illustrations just complement the podcast so well. He did a really great job of matching like the humorous tone, the style that we tried to set. So everything really comes together really nicely. I think the listeners will definitely like the book.
Yeah, the illustrator's name is Javier Espila, and his artwork is fantastic. Looks a little bit like a Disney movie. It looks a little bit like the Hercules movie. The characters a little bit there, but they're so much more in tune with what we did with the podcast and what the copy is in the book. There's a lot of new chapters in the book. You'll meet one of my new favorite heroes, whose name is Asclepius, and he was not a warrior, but a healer. He was like the first really good doctor. Yeah, like Doogie Howser. Well, you don't know who Doogie Howser. Never mind.
Yes, I do. I'm.
Okay.
Have you seen on Disney Plus? There's Doogie Howser Kame Aloha.
That's right. I've forgotten. That's right. They did the reboot. Okay, so that makes sense. So it's sort of like Doogie Howser, but not at all. Never mind.
Lastly, what do you hope your audience and future generations will do with the information you shared, both in the book and podcast?
Well, we hope that they will take away the importance and the fun of storytelling, and we hope this will inspire them to tell their own stories, to use these characters, to just really fall in love with creativity and telling stories moving forward.
I don't think I could possibly say it better. But just like the Greeks and just like the gods and goddesses, keep trying. Even if you don't get it right, keep going. Even if you never get it exactly right, you can always get it better.
That's true. Well, thank you today for speaking with me. Make sure to check out their book, Greeking Out, Epic Retellings of Classic Greek Myths, and it releases on September 19th, 2023. I had a great conversation with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
This was really fun.
Yeah, it was.
Thanks.
I'm Cindy reporting for Kids First from San Diego Comic-Con 2023. Make sure to like and subscribe to our channel for up-to-date information about the entertainment industry from a kid's perspective. See you later.